Bethany adjusted her blazer, took a deep breath, and stepped out of the black SUV. The sun was barely up, casting a soft gold glow over the campus of Westbrook Prep Academy. With her books clutched tight to her chest, she walked through the tall iron gates like any other student, except she wasn't. She wasn't just the new girl. She was the president's daughter. But nobody here knew that. She'd enrolled under the name Bethany Carter, trading her real surname Langston for a chance at anonymity. No secret service, no flashing cameras, just one semester to be normal before heading to college. Bethany walked toward the administration office, her full figure slightly bouncing with each step. She was 18, curvy, and unmistakably black among the mostly white and well-manicured student body. Her round cheeks framed a face that had seen too many fake smiles. And while she carried herself with dignity, her heart pounded with anxiety. This school, her father had chosen it for her, was a political powerhouse. Children of CEOs, governors, and foreign diplomats filled its halls. Bethany didn't want special treatment. She wanted peace, friends, a sense of belonging. Instead, what she found was Evelyn. Her first class was honors literature. The moment Bethany entered, a hush fell. Students looked up, eyes darting to her curves, her skin, her carefully pressed curls. She sat near the back, trying to make herself small. But Evelyn wouldn't allow that. A tall, pale blonde with piercing blue eyes and a smirk that could cut glass. Evelyn sat 2 rows up, spinning her pen and whispering loudly to her friend Abigail. "Did you see her walk in?" Evelyn said, snorting. "I didn't know the cafeteria served double portions." Abigail giggled. Bethany clenched her fist. The teacher walked in, and the snickering ceased. But the stares didn't. Not when she stood to introduce herself. Not when she struggled to squeeze past the narrow desks. Not when her voice trembled slightly with every answer. The day dragged. Whispers followed her. Lunch was no better. She sat alone with her homemade sandwich, head down, pretending not to hear the words hippo, whale, and charity case float from nearby tables. But not everyone laughed. From across the cafeteria, one person didn't look away. His name was Daniel. Daniel was tall, lean, with dark wavy hair and a quiet confidence. A senior like her, he was known for being kind, the soccer team's captain, and, according to half the girls in school, the boy with the dreamy smile. Bethany didn't care about any of that. What she noticed was that he wasn't laughing. Their eyes met briefly, and then he looked down and went back to his lunch. She sighed. That night she called home. "Are you okay?" her mother asked. Bethany hesitated. "I'm fine, just tired." Her father's voice came on next. "Remember, sweetheart, you're not here to prove anything. Just be yourself." Bethany smiled, even though her chest still felt heavy. The next day, things escalated. Bethany was walking to her locker when she noticed a red sticky note stuck to it. Written in jagged handwriting were the words, "Caution, overload, locker may burst." She closed her eyes, took a deep breath, and peeled it off. Behind her, Evelyn laughed. "Oops, didn't see you there." Bethany turned slowly. "I don't know what your problem is, but you need to leave me alone." Evelyn tilted her head. "Ah, the whale talks. Listen, I don't make the rules. You walk in here thinking you're different, special or something. But newsflash, this isn't a charity program. You don't belong." Bethany said nothing. She opened her locker, ignoring the stares. That's when Daniel walked up. "You okay?" he asked. Bethany nodded. "Thanks." Evelyn scoffed. "Seriously, Daniel?" "Her." He turned to her. Seriously, Evelyn? Grow up. Abigail gasped, and the hallway went silent. Bethany looked up at him, surprised. He smiled. "Wanna get lunch later?" She paused, then nodded. Evelyn's mouth opened in disbelief. And just like that, Bethany had someone in her corner. Lunch under the maple tree became their daily tradition. Bethany learned that Daniel's dad was a senator, but he didn't like politics. He liked art, jazz music, and his dog named Luna. Daniel learned that Bethany liked painting, sketching, and writing short stories, but she always avoided talking about her family. They laughed. They shared fries. They even started working on a group project together in American history. But peace never lasts long. One day during gym class, as Bethany changed into her sports top in the locker room, Evelyn snuck behind her with her phone and snapped a photo. Bethany didn't hear the click. But by afternoon, the photo had been shared to half the school group chats, with cruel captions like, "Guess what washed up on the gym shore?" Bethany found out during third period. Her hands shook. Her face burned. She ran into the bathroom and cried in a stall. She didn't tell anyone. But Daniel found out anyway. He confronted Evelyn in front of everyone. "You're disgusting," he told her. "I'm honest," Evelyn snapped. "At least I don't pretend like I care about people who clearly gave up on themselves." Principal Harris was called. Evelyn denied everything. Bethany was asked to provide proof. She didn't. She didn't want the attention. She just wanted it all to stop. But the damage was done. At home that night, she stared at the phone, wondering if she should call her dad. But no, he was busy running the country. She didn't want to look weak. She didn't want to disappoint him. So she cried into her pillow and prayed it would pass. But it didn't, because the next morning, she found her locker trashed, paint smeared across it, and the word "beast" scrawled in red. That was the last straw. Bethany didn't run. She didn't cry. She pulled out her phone, snapped a photo, and texted a private number. "Dad, I'm ready." Bethany sat in the art room at lunch, brushing thick blue paint across her canvas in slow, patient strokes. This was her refuge, where silence wasn't awkward, and the paint didn't judge her body or her voice. The door creaked open. She didn't turn, but she knew who it was before she heard the voice. "Thought hippos only lived near rivers," Evelyn said, her laughter bouncing off the walls. Behind her, Abigail smirked, arms folded. Bethany blinked slowly. "If you're done rehearsing your insults, I'd like to finish my project." "Don't get smart with me, Bethany," Evelyn snapped, "or I'll leak those photos. Remember gym class?" Bethany's heart skipped. Of course she remembered. 2 days ago, in the locker room, Evelyn had taken a picture of Bethany changing into her gym top, catching an awkward moment and her vulnerable body on full display. "Delete them," Bethany said, more firmly now. Evelyn leaned in. "Make me." At that moment, someone knocked on the open door. It was Daniel, his backpack slung over one shoulder. "You good, Beth?" Evelyn instantly straightened up, her posture flipping from predator to polite. "Oh hey, Daniel. We were just talking." Daniel looked at her blankly, then turned to Bethany. "Wanna eat outside? I got us ice cream." Bethany stood, brushing her hands on her jeans. "Sure." As they walked away, Evelyn muttered behind them, "She really thinks he likes her. What a joke." But Daniel heard her. He paused, turned, and said, "You're exhausting, Evelyn." That was the last time Evelyn spoke to Daniel. Publicly, at least. Outside under the cherry tree, Bethany sat cross-legged, a melting tub of vanilla swirl in her hands. "Thanks for that," she mumbled. Daniel shrugged. "Bullies are cowards. She'll stop when she realizes she's losing her grip." Bethany looked at him, something warm stirring in her chest. But she didn't speak. Instead, she remembered what her father once told her. "Real power is quiet, Beth. It doesn't need to shout. It just waits, and then it changes everything." Later that week, the school assembly buzzed with noise. Principal Harris was retiring, and the auditorium was packed. Bethany took a seat near the middle. Daniel waved at her from up front. Evelyn and Abigail sat 2 rows behind, whispering and giggling. That's when the doors burst open. Everyone turned. A man in a black suit stepped in, tall, commanding, with a coiled earpiece in his ear. Then came another, and another. Bethany froze. No, she'd begged them not to come. But there he was, President James Langston, her father, America's most powerful man. And behind him, her poised and elegant mother, First Lady Miriam Langston. A ripple of stunned gasps spread across the room. Principal Harris rose in disbelief. "And Mr. President?" Bethany stood up, caught in the epicenter of a silent storm. Her father didn't speak immediately. He simply walked down the aisle and stopped at her row. "Bethany," he said warmly, "ready to go home?" Every eye turned to her. Evelyn's jaw dropped. Abigail's phone slipped from her fingers. Bethany's voice shook. "Dad, why are you here?" President Langston turned to the crowd. "I came to see the environment my daughter has been enduring," he said, his voice steady. "The bullying, the humiliation, the cruelty she's been silent about. Until now." Murmurs exploded. Cameras clicked. Phones rose. Evelyn stood up, her face pale. This isn't fair. You can't just embarrass us because she's your daughter." The president turned to her. "Young lady, my daughter never told me your name. You just did that yourself." A deadly silence fell. The principal cleared his throat, visibly shaken. "Perhaps we should." But the president raised a hand. "My visit is not to punish. It's to highlight something bigger. This school has failed to protect its own. And that ends now." Bethany's eyes burned. Not from embarrassment, but from release. Finally, the fallout. The next day, Evelyn and Abigail's bullying video from gym class hit the press. Not leaked by Bethany, but by someone inside Abigail's own friend group, disgusted by what they saw. The backlash was instant. Governor Newman, Evelyn's father, was forced to step down amid investigations into his office. Abigail's mother, the former First Lady's private chef, was fired after publicly mocking Bethany on social media. And Bethany? She didn't need revenge. The world handled that for her. Back at school, Bethany returned to school a week later. People didn't laugh anymore. They smiled, or nodded, or walked away quietly. And Daniel? He waited by her locker, with a milkshake. "You okay?" he asked. Bethany nodded. "Better than I've ever been." They walked to class together, shoulder to shoulder. This time no one whispered, not because they were afraid, but because they'd finally seen her. Bethany leaned against the cool glass of the library window, watching the wind rustle through the blossoming cherry trees outside. Spring had finally arrived, and with it, the last stretch of her high school journey. In just a few weeks, she'd graduate. But Bethany wasn't counting days. She was counting wins. Not trophies or applause, but quiet victories. The way nobody laughed anymore when she walked into class. The way teachers called her name with warmth now. The way someone held the door for her every morning without expecting a thank you. And Daniel, always Daniel. He'd become her anchor, loyal, calm, and patient, never pushing for more than she was ready to give. "Are you coming?" he asked now, standing by the library door with 2 coffees in hand. Ms. Perez just put up the final list for valedictorian speeches. Bethany turned to him, one brow raised. "You think I'd be chosen?" He grinned. "You mean you weren't? Girl, you're the reason half the country respects this school again." Bethany rolled her eyes, but her cheeks flushed. It had been nearly 2 months since her identity was revealed, and life hadn't been the same since. Bethany had returned home briefly after the public fallout. Her father, President Langston, insisted she rest. Her mother cooked for her again, something the White House chef found oddly threatening. And Bethany? She painted. She wrote. She even received letters. Hundreds. From girls across the country. Black girls. Fat girls. Quiet girls. Girls who were tired of being made small. One envelope stood out. It came from a girl named Nicole in Georgia. "Dear Bethany, I saw what you went through. I'm not rich. My dad's not the president. But you made me feel like I matter. I didn't think people like us could be seen until you stood up and didn't flinch. Thank you for making space for girls like me." Bethany cried reading that one, and then wrote her back. Her return wasn't triumphant. It was humble, quiet, but everything felt different. Even the teachers smiled wider. Even the school counselor, Mrs. Leary, the one who once told her to try to blend in more, called her a strong young woman in front of the faculty board. As for Evelyn and Abigail, they were gone, expelled. The governor's scandal had spread like wildfire. His daughter's public shame only made things worse. Their family left the state entirely, though not before Evelyn released a half-hearted apology video blaming immaturity and peer pressure. Bethany didn't even watch it. She had bigger things to focus on. The speech. When Bethany stood at the podium in her navy cap and gown, the audience fell silent. Not out of obligation, but reverence. Daniel gave her a quiet thumbs up from the front row. Her parents sat beside the superintendent, their faces glowing with pride. Bethany adjusted the mic, her voice steady and warm. "Good morning. My name is Bethany Langston, though I suspect some of you already know that." Light laughter rippled through the crowd. She smiled. "I came to this school to be invisible, not because I was ashamed, but because I wanted to know if I could be seen for who I really am. Not the daughter of someone powerful, not a headline, just a girl." She paused. "A girl who loves art, who loves silence, who sometimes gets nervous when her name is called in class. A girl who cried in the bathroom and laughed on the football field and learned to forgive people who never said sorry." Now the auditorium was completely still. "And I learned something here, something that I hope all of us take into our futures. That the loudest voices aren't always the most important. And that kindness, real kindness, isn't a trend. It's a responsibility." She looked directly at Principal Harris, now seated in the front row, tears glistening in his eyes. "To everyone who ever felt invisible, you are not. You never were. And to everyone who made me feel small, thank you. You reminded me just how big I could be." Thunderous applause. A standing ovation. Even Ms. Perez wiped a tear behind her sunglasses. 1 year later, Bethany opened the creaky wooden gate of a modest community art studio nestled in DC's quieter side streets. The door had been painted rainbow by local kids. Inside, walls were filled with student sketches, protest posters, and joyful graffiti. She ran the place now, with government backing, not because of her name, but because of her impact. Across the walls hung quotes from students and local families. Some frames held headlines from the media firestorm that once surrounded her. Now faded, softened by time. A new one stood proudly near the entrance. Bethany Langston. From bullying victim to voice of a generation. Bethany laughed whenever she saw it. "I'm no voice of a generation," she once told Daniel. "I'm just a girl who got tired of being quiet." But she kept the plaque anyway. Daniel's letter. One crisp October morning, Bethany received a letter at the studio. No return address. But she knew the handwriting instantly. Daniel. He'd gone off to NYU, pursuing journalism. They had agreed to take some space, focus on becoming who they needed to be. But his words hadn't changed. "Beth, I've met people, heard stories, sat in rooms with movers and shakers. But no one moved me like you did. You showed me how courage doesn't shout, it stands. I'll come back. One day. When the world's quieter. And if you're still painting, maybe we can make something together again." Bethany clutched the letter to her chest. She didn't cry. She just smiled. On the second anniversary of her speech, the studio hosted a gallery called Visible. Every piece came from someone who once felt unseen. And in the center of it all stood Bethany's newest work, a massive canvas of a chubby black girl standing tall in a sea of shadows. Around her, faint outlines of bullies melted into the darkness. And above her, light, not from the sky, but from within. She titled it, Beth. When the crowd moved through, taking photos and wiping tears, Bethany stepped outside alone, inhaling the night air. She heard footsteps, turned. It was Daniel, holding 2 milkshakes. He held one out, grinning. "Still your favorite?" Bethany took it, smiling wide. "Always." They sat together on the steps, shoulder to shoulder. No whispers, just peace.